Welcome back
to another week
and another episode.
That is the energy we want. Yes.
This gloomy weather is catching up to us.
Yes, I need some sun.
Need some sun.
Yeah. So I'm just going to jump straight in this week. We're chatting about protecting your boundaries, setting boundaries in place that protect your energy. And I think this topic relates really well to our season 4, which is build from within. And so we really want to focus on mindset this season. Obviously, we've been focusing on mindsets, but I don't think people understand the importance of building a solid foundation internally, mentally, and just understanding yourself better. And so boundaries is such an important point in this whole journey. Unfortunately, it's such a necessary thing to implement in your life. If you're building a business, if you are not building a business, if you are in a relationship, or if you have friends or family, or literally it is applicable to every single human, is we have to have boundaries. And what I'm trying to say is that it's really important to understand yourself, but once you understand yourself, you have to be able to put boundaries in place to protect that, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And this Sunday, actually, this past Sunday, I was listening to a sermon where the pastor said this year he thinks it's like the year of no, and to put your foot down and say no to whatever society trying to push on you, whatever people around you is trying to convince you of, and rather go back to like, what do I believe, what do I stand by, what do I stand with, and just protecting your peace in that way and staying focused, which I think is such a like good reminder that you are allowed to say no in so many aspects of your life. If the society is trying to push you into this, say no, that's actually not what I'm going to do, and that's completely okay and completely fine.
We've spoken a lot this season about self-trust and self-respect, and I think boundaries link so well with that, because it's basically self-respect in action, self-trust in action, and it's not a wall. It's not a wall that you put up. It's a flexible thing that you can change, but it's something that needs to be in place for you to be able to show up for yourself. And it's almost, I don't know how to explain it, like how to explain what's going on in my brain, but I see it as like a tool to create self-trust and a tool to create discipline. And so I think we should look at it like that, because I think boundaries have become such a like negative thing. It's positive, but it's negative.
It's a negative connotation.
Exactly. And so use it as a tool rather than seeing it as like begin all and end all.
Well, the boundaries we are talking about is like healthy, just protecting your peace, and that might just be taking a step back from relationships or people, or deciding this weekend I'm not going to say yes to everything, but rather like I just need to take a breath and just need to take a breather. Another way to look at boundaries, if way back I heard this analogy and I was reminded of it the other day, is like our life, like you have a house. So if you think of a house, this is Laurie. And some people and some things I allow in my bedroom, some things and some people I allow in my living room, and some people and some things I allow in my front garden. Okay, it doesn't mean that they're not allowed to be in my space. It just means like certain things and certain people I can have in my front garden. I actually love it, love them. Nothing, no hard feelings. It's just I need a little bit more space than those I have in my bedroom.
That's such a nice way
it's just like a good way to think that it doesn't have to be unhealthy or toxic or whatever. It's just some things and some people you just need a little bit of a gap for, and that's perfectly okay.
No, definitely. I think about it in circles, and so I have my inner circle, and then my there's like circles around it. And if let's say you break my trust, or I realize that you don't respect my boundaries, or whatever, you just move a little circle to the outside. Like you just move out a little bit, and I still love you and I still care about you, and you are a person that I will share certain experiences with, but you're not an inner circle person necessarily. And it's just setting those boundaries of these people have these boundaries and these people have these boundaries. But I like the house analogy. It's a really good way of putting it.
It feels personal.
It really does, and it's more like it puts things into perspective a bit more. Okay, the shoes are coming off.
Being real. I think on the same note of like with the toxic boundaries, is it can go other way, where people are kind of like talk you into that, make you feel guilty. That's the right word. Make you feel guilty for wanting to protect your peace, saying no sometimes, saying like my plate's too full, I can't right now, or I don't have energy, whatever. And now you might feel guilty about it, right? And we feel guilty about setting those boundaries. But when we burnt out, we don't feel guilty about not setting those boundaries. Which is actually like so contradictory. And that's the reality, is we are only human and we can only carry so much. And I think we put way too much on our plate sometimes. You are going to get burnt out at a stage. Like that's just unfortunately the reality of it. And then you're going to regret not putting those boundaries in. I
think the beauty of it is the idea of not having boundaries, right? is beautiful in quotation marks, because it's all about love and it's all about care and showing up for people and doing the most and, you know, going the extra mile.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying pick the people that
you do it with.
You do it for, you know. So unfortunately, people tend to take advantage of people who don't have boundaries, who don't set boundaries, who don't show up for themselves, who don't say no. And I've been in those situations multiple times where people just walk over you because you're not going to say no. They're just going to keep pushing you because they get what they want. And you care too much, so you're going to keep saying yes, right? And so setting boundaries, don't see it as like I'm becoming a shitty person, or people are losing access to me, or like I'm not showing up for my people if I'm setting boundaries. Don't see it as like that negative thing. See it as a protective mechanism to keep the people who take advantage of it at bay, if that makes sense. So you can still go the extra mile for your people, but if you keep going the extra mile for everyone, you don't have enough in your cup to give to your people and to yourself, right? And so that's how I see it. It's like I said, it's a tool. But if you keep giving it away to everyone around you, you have literally nothing left to give. Not to yourself, not to your loved ones, the people that you actually want to go the extra mile for. And then you're going to be burnt out. And then you're not only burnt out in like a relationship way, you're burnt out career-wise, you're burnt out emotionally, you're burnt out physically, because you're showing up in so many ways for people. And it could be career-wise as well. I mean, you have to set boundaries in your career or at work and with your employee or with your co-workers, because if you don't, people just take advantage. And so it's not just for romantic relationships, it's also for family and friendships and work and your neighbor and anything and everything.
Literally anything, yeah.
And so I think we need to be very selective about where we want to spend our energy and where we want to place people in our houses, like the analogy. So if you think about it, just as an example, right? If you are eating McDonald's and KFC every day, and you're not exercising and you drink 7 liters of Coke a day, you are going to feel shit. Okay, you're going to feel disgusting, you are not going to have energy, you are constantly going to crash, and your body's just not going to feel good, right? It's the same thing with your mindset and your like mental and emotional health, right? And so see it as like a mental and emotional hygiene. What you allow in is going to affect how you feel and how your body feels and how your brain feels and how you show up, right? And so I think that's such a cool way to think about it at the same time, is you see it as everyone is like health and wealth, right? Same thing for your mental states and your mindsets. We have to be so conscious of what we allow into that space.
And I think we can talk about the two different ways we can put in boundaries. Or categorize boundaries, that's a better word. So emotional boundaries, being able to kind of distinguish between like, whose emotions am I taking to heart, and whose am I like, that's really, it sucks for you, and it really does. I'm not trying to be, you know,
or
like invalidate it at all. It's so much to put on one person. And a lot of the time, and this is what someone told me that kind of changed my perspective on it, is she's like, okay, fine, now I'm taking Danielle's emotional baggage she's carrying on me, but I can physically not do anything about it. Like, maybe there's sometimes I can, I'm sure she'll share with me and ask me for help. But a lot of it I can't do anything about. I can't help you in any way. And realizing that it's okay if I'm not taking it on me, because I can't change it. So carrying it, I'll never be relieved from that emotional baggage, because I can never resolve it for her. And the reality is, the person I'm taking it from will probably be fine in the next few days or weeks, but it's still weighing on me because I didn't see that be fixed or whatever. And I was telling someone yesterday, actually, one of the examples I've now learned is I was telling them about someone, I really struggle with negative, like super, super negative people who like immediately jump to a negative conclusion or like negative, just negativity. I feel like there's so much shit in the world, we can just be positive about it at least. Anyway, and I was telling this person that I've just learned to ignore the first 2 sentences those people tell me, because I know it's going to be negative, I know it's just going to upset me. Ignore those 2 sentences and then I can start listening again, which sounds really harsh, but truly it protects my peace, because I don't get frustrated. I'm like, okay, I don't hear it, whatever, okay, now we can actually like have a proper conversation.
No,
you know?
100%.
Like, just learn how to like manage that for yourself. That's
such a good way of like looking at it, because we all have to set different boundaries. Like, we can't even tell you set boundaries with this person, do that, set this boundary at work, set this. But we all have different experiences, and people walk over us in different ways, and we're affected in different ways. And so I completely agree with you in terms of negativity. I just stay away from negative people. So you're doing better than me. But it's a good way of dealing with it. And I think that's where we should actually all just like take a step back and be like, okay, what is affecting me from the situation, or what is affecting me from this person, and where are they taking advantage of me, and deal with that. Because I think it's so normalized in this day and age to just leave, to just block those people out, to just say, you know what, I deserve better. And it's actually such a disgusting spot I think we're in as like in society. Because it's so easy for people to leave. It's so easy for people to run away. It's so easy. As soon as things get hard or uncomfortable, you're like, oh, I'm out, thanks. And people just don't know how to deal with conflict anymore. And also, if boundaries are in place from the beginning, like conflict won't arise. Like it prevents that, you know. And I'm not saying you have to set boundaries from the beginning. You can obviously get to know the person and then slowly but surely build those boundaries. But it's like being in a relationship. If you start out the relationship and nothing is an issue ever, and you kind of just like take the shit, and then a year in, then you start complaining and fighting about the stuff that's annoying you because you never mentioned it. Now it's like built up, and now it's a huge problem. Like, you can't expect that person to be like completely change because you never set a boundary from the beginning. So you just let it slide for such a long time. And so I think, firstly, as society, we need to understand how to communicate, learn how to communicate, and it doesn't have to be mean. It doesn't have to be conflict. It's just, listen, I don't really appreciate it when you do that, or like that really triggers me, or I really don't appreciate that, or whatever. And if they don't listen, then that's like, or they don't care. Yeah, exactly. That's on them. But also, like you said, some situations you don't even have to, like, you can deal with it to an extent by yourself, and you just need to set that internal boundary of, this person, I'm not going to listen to the first 5 sentences they say, just because whatever. Because I think it's so normal, especially as empaths, to take on other people's emotions, take on other people's problems and feelings and like storms. But like you said, like, it's not going to help anything. You're just putting yourself in a black hole that you have literally no control over the situation. Even you're not even part of the situation for that matter. So and it's something that I've struggled with for such a long time, is taking on other people's emotions. And I think I've got better at it. I know I've got a lot better at it, but it's still really frustrating.
And it's tough.
It really is. But it's frustrating because now I feel like I come across as
mean.
It's kind of mean.
But that's exactly what I just told you. It feels that way.
Yeah, it really does. Because it's like, I've set these boundaries. I'm not, like, you can tell me what's going on, not you. You can tell me what's going on in your life and I will take it 100%. But there's other people that are in outside circles that you can tell me what's going on in your life. I am not going to go out of my way to sort out your life for you. No. And it sounds horrific to say, but I know you wouldn't do the same for me.
See, that's the tough part, Or maybe it can be as simple as, like, you have a lot on your plate already.
Exactly.
And like, you just don't have space.
Yeah,
like, it's
don't have the capacity.
Not that you don't care, it's not that you wouldn't if you could. But being like, I'm not going to, and I think that's the important thing, is to put yourself first and say, I'm not going to clear my plate of my problems, right? And just like ignore that, because that's how you get burnt out, when you start like ignoring yours and just taking on others.
Yes.
You know? Yeah. But as you said, it's a very, especially if it's been a habit for super long, like it's been a habit, and that's what I just do, you know?
Yeah.
It's tough to break that habit. Yeah.
I think the beauty with boundaries, I'm going very off script, but the beauty with boundaries is that there still has to be a balance. And so, once again, I think there's this toxic need for boundaries in 2026, and everyone is pushing boundaries, and everyone is pushing say no and whatever. And I understand that there's so much beauty in setting boundaries. Okay, I'm not saying don't set boundaries. I just think there has to be a balance, because I've seen it over and over, how people are now protecting their peace so hard that they're not living, they're not experiencing anything new, they're not pushing themselves, they're not, you know, like challenging themselves in any way, shape, and form. And that's where I see it as like a dangerous thing. Because sometimes always being uncomfortable helps you grow. And so we should set boundaries for things that don't align with who we are. But we shouldn't set boundaries for things that make us uncomfortable because of the work that we'll need to put in. Does that make sense?
No, 100%, yeah.
Because I think if you're uncomfortable because of a different reason, 100% set the boundary. But if you're uncomfortable because it's going to be hard and scary, and you know, like, you're going to have to put the work in.
Sorry, babes.
Man up. You know what I'm saying?
No, 100%.
Because
Yeah.
then you're literally just holding back. You're just holding back on your potential. You're holding back on growth. And that seems unnecessary to me. And yeah, I don't know.
No, I agree with you.
Okay, so I very much went off script there. But to jump back in to the point was, Laurie chatted about emotional boundaries. And I think physical boundaries is also a really important one. I think it's really easy to either like give people too much access to your life. It's also easy to take access away completely. And once again, I'm going to try push on the points of there needs to be a balance, because I think people stop living if there's too many boundaries and too much comfort. But your time is literally your most important currency. What you do with it, who you give it to, what you build with it, who you spend time with. If it could even just be with yourself, right? But prioritizing using that right and giving it to the right people and the right situations and resting when you need that rest is so important.
We literally all have limited time on earth. Like,
Yes.
that's the one thing we have in common. So if we're just going to waste it away, give it to anyone and everyone. And again, like we're saying, there needs to be a balance. We're not saying be selfish, be self-centered, like just me. It needs to be a balance. But if I've spent so much time serving others and whatever, and no time on myself, that's not balanced, and that's not okay.
Yeah.
There needs to be a boundary set. And even if it's just limiting, like I've started doing that, where it's like, sure, I'll go have coffee with you, but I need to leave at 1.
That time, yeah.
Just like putting a boundary of time, and even if I go past 1, that doesn't matter. But at least I know we're not going to go until 5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it just kind of feels like there's at least a structure to it. Where
You set an expectation for yourself, but also for the other person.
yeah. And also, I think it's respectful towards the other person as well, because you're respecting their boundaries and their time as well.
Yeah.
So it goes
definitely.
both ways.
But also, it's just communicating. That level of communication is so important, and we've lost that. But that level of communication is so important, because if we just you don't set the boundary, right? And let's say you get mad at that person, you either communicate that or you don't. You probably don't, because it's 2026. Then you're just building resentment up towards that person. Or if you had a boundary in your head, you didn't communicate it, you're building resentment up because you've set this expectation for yourself that you are not like meeting. So now you're going to resent that person for pushing a boundary that you never communicated.
Yeah.
And so I think this is such an important part of setting boundaries in general, is boundaries need to be communicated. Okay, you can't just have them in your brain and then think everyone's going to smile them. Okay, they have to be communicated, because if you don't communicate it, resentment builds. So like it's either like without clarity, there's going to be resentment. Okay, if someone pushes your boundary after you communicated it, whole different ball game. But can't expect someone to smile that you have a boundary.
Yeah, and I think even like as we're talking about boundaries, we are explaining it. You can see both of us are really people pleasers.
Yeah.
But also just being able to say, sorry, it doesn't work for me, without having to think of 220 excuses on why not, or explaining it to someone. You don't need to explain to someone. Like, it's a very simple yes or no. And again, I think I was telling you the other day this, but I've come at a point with even like with so many of my friends where I'm like, if you just tell me it doesn't work, just say no.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hate you. I'm not going to resent you. Just say no. Like, I don't care. Perfect. We'll see each other next week. Like, that's really, I think we have to choose peace for ourselves and for each other and be like, that's okay. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like,
100%.
no hard feelings. We're old enough now, and we're literally on the wrong side of 20. Don't know this yet. Anyway, but we're old enough where we can have respect for each other's boundaries and be like, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
No, definitely. An example that I got wildly humbled by my 18-year-old sister the other day is I am a morning person, but I tend to get very overwhelmed in the morning when I'm surrounded by a lot of people or like loud noises and just lots of things going on, right? So I've always been like this. When I used to be in high school, it was literally like the family game of who can piss someone off this morning. And I could never really put into words why I felt that way. And it was just so frustrating because I was like, I don't want to be in a bad mood and I don't understand what is going on. But can everyone just shut up? Yes.
Yeah.
And over the years, I've kind of like figured it out.
Yeah.
But still, I really struggle to communicate to people. I'm overwhelmed or, you know, I'm overstimulated right now. Can I just like have a moment? And that's just people pleasing because I don't want people to feel like they're doing something wrong. Okay. And it's not, they're not doing something wrong. It's just me and my brain in this moment cannot deal with it. And so the other day I explained, so my little sister's moving in with me, whatever, and I said, in the mornings, we just need to, just
Breathe.
keep it quiet for a few hours, and then we can chat. And then she asked about it, and she was like, why are you always in a bad mood in the mornings when we talk to you and when there's lots going on? And I was like, I'm not in a bad mood. I just get overstimulated very easily in the mornings. And so this is only something that I've figured out recently, and I've never been able to really understand why that happened.
Yeah, why you feel like that.
Exactly. And I always felt guilty for it, but I couldn't control it for some reason. I would always try really hard. And the more I tried to control it and not communicate or figure it out, the more I resented not only myself, but also them for just going over and above to annoy the shit out of me. Okay. And so she literally said, okay, but when that happens, can you please just tell me that you're overstimulated? Don't just leave because you're annoyed. Just tell me you're overstimulated, and then I understand.
And you were like, oh.
Wow.
What a great idea.
What a great idea. Why have I never thought of this? But I think it's also because I'm so scared to disappoint people or make people feel like they're being too much.
Yeah.
Because people have made me feel that way. It's such a scary thing to say, but also just saying I'm overstimulated right now, not because of anything you're doing, just because there's lots going on and I just need a moment. Exactly. Yeah. It's not an insult.
It's not so deep.
It's not so deep, and I should stop being such a people pleaser, but giving that clarity to my people also puts them at ease to know it's not us. She's not annoyed by us. She's just overwhelmed. So let's give her a moment. So it's a self-respect thing, but it's also respect towards your people because they now understand you better and they understand how to love you better, if that makes sense. And so that kind of it was such once again, I understand how stupid it sounds that I've never thought of this. It was a dirt moment, exactly. But it's the little things of just clarity. People need clarity to be able to respect your boundaries because they can't smell them.
Crazy, eh?
Bizarre. And as you can hear, we're still working on those things.
No, we are. But I think it's a growing process. It's just going to process on.
Exactly. And I think the more, as you go through life, some boundaries are not applicable anymore. And then you get new boundaries as you move through, different spaces and you meet different people. And in different relationships, you have different boundaries. And I think that's healthy and that's good.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's beauty in that.
To sum this all up, there's a difference between being kind, being considerate, which you should be. We all should be, okay? The world is a horrible place. We can might as well be kind. But there's a difference between being kind and, considerate and whatever, and then being accessible 24/7. Yeah. And that you can't do.
I wish we could all be like that. I wish we had the capacity to be accessible 24/7.
But we're just human.
Yeah.
And remembering that we need rest, we need reset, we need a alone time. We need to fill our own cups. And the cliche thing of you can't be pouring into other people's cup if your cup is empty. But truly you need to fill your cup in whatever that looks like. Being kind and considerate, totally different. Being there for people, completely different. But being accessible 24/7 is not possible. And we need to put boundaries around that.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's such a human thing to want to show up and want to love, especially as people that genuinely love so deeply and have so much love to give. For example, my love language is quality time and acts of service. And so if you ask me to do something or be there, I'm going to be there, right? But I can't always. Sometimes I show up and I physically don't have the capacity, so I can be there, but it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't help. It doesn't help you, and it definitely doesn't help me because then I'm trying to find capacity that doesn't exist within my body and just burn myself out by being there. And you're also I'm not helping because I'm just there. I'm not adding any value, and my cup is empty. You know what I mean? So there has to be a balance. We just have to find that sweet spot. Yeah. But to end off, I just want to ask a reflective question of where in your life are you leaking energy because you're scared to disappoint people? I think it's such a relatable thing because we're so scared to disappoint people. Most of the time, people won't necessarily be disappointed. They won't even realize, most of the time they won't even realize that you weren't there or whatever. I think we set this high standard for ourselves and the way that we love and the way that we show up. But sometimes you have to love and show up that way for yourself as well to be able to show up and love others in the best way possible.
That's so true.
But yes, just think about it. Where in your life are you scared to disappoint people, and so you are putting yourself in the back burner, or you are pushing your own boundaries to be there for others?
This year you're choosing peace and choosing healthy boundaries.
Woo-woo!
Have the best week.
Have the best week. We will see you next week. And yeah.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.